Top stories. More members of Congress are joining the bid to challenge electoral college results. It could force a debate on election integrity and even overturn results in some states. The 117th Congress is sworn in. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi holds on to her leadership role while the Senate waits for the last two races in Georgia. And we get a behind-the-scenes look at how Georgia's Fulton County is processing ballots for the Senate runoff. One poll monitor tells us some of her observations so far. A U.S. aircraft carrier was scheduled to leave the Persian Gulf, but now it's staying put following Iranian threats toward President Trump and other U.S. officials. Nancy Pelosi is House Speaker once again. She was reelected in a tight vote yesterday when the new Congress took office.
The House voted 216 to 209 to re-elect Nancy Pelosi as the Speaker. She'll lead the narrowest majority in 2 decades.
We begin this new Congress during a time of extraordinary difficulty. Each of our communities has been drastically affected by the pandemic and its economic crisis.
Pelosi has led House Democrats since 2003. She was expected to keep her post, despite a quiet effort to oust her. But only 5 Democrats chose not to support her after Democrats lost a dozen incumbents during the 2020 election. And in the Senate, Vice President Mike Pence swore in 6 new members on Sunday. They include Senators Tommy Tuberville, John Hickenlooper, Roger Marshall, Ben Ray Lujan, Bill Hagerty, and Cynthia Loomis. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says they're convening at a challenging time.
From political division to a deadly pandemic to adversaries around the world, the hurdles before us are many, and they are serious.
But he says there's also plenty of reason for hope, and that optimism is one of our nation's most distinctive calling cards. 2 Georgia runoff elections on Tuesday will help determine which party controls the Senate. For now, it's Republican-led.
Republicans criticized Pelosi for letting Representative Gwen Moore travel to Washington to vote for Speaker after testing positive for COVID-19 last week. Republicans are suggesting Pelosi allowed it because her speakership was on the line, but Moore says that she's feeling good and she was cleared to return. Puerto Rico swears in a new governor who vows to achieve statehood for the U.S. territory. The island is still recovering from earthquakes and hurricanes.
I need everyone to battle our common enemies, the pandemic, poverty and crime, lack of access to good education and health care, economic stagnation, corruption, and inequality. Those are the battles we need to fight together.
Saturday's ceremony marked the end of a chaotic 4-year term that saw 3 governors, including Pedro Pierluisi himself. Pierluisi won the election with the lowest number of votes of any governor in Puerto Rico's history. He is a Democrat who served as Puerto Rico's representative in Congress for 8 years. The 61-year-old inherits a divided legislature, a billion-dollar public debt restructuring, and a politically fractured U.S. territory hit hard by the pandemic. In the same election, Puerto Ricans also voted for statehood, but any changes to the island's status need approval in U.S. Congress. More and more lawmakers plan to object to the electoral college results. Congress meets on Wednesday to count the votes.
House Republican leader Kevin McCarthy says he supports the bid to challenge electoral college results. He told The Hill, "I think it's right that we have the debate. How else do we have a way to change the election problems?" A number of House members and senators say they will object to electoral slates in Wednesday's joint session of Congress. Representative Mo Brooks is leading the move in the House. He's now joined by prominent House members like Jim Jordan and dozens of others. Both Representative Adam Kinzinger and White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows suggest over 100 members will support the bid. Senator Josh Hawley was the first senator to join the challenge. And Senator Ted Cruz is leading a group that say they too will object if no emergency election audit is held. The objections, made in writing, need support from at least 1 member of each chamber. This would trigger a 2-hour debate and a vote in each house. A simple majority would determine the outcome and potentially nullify a state's electoral votes or switch them to the other candidate. Some members of Congress say they're against the move. It includes Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, who previously urged Republicans in the Senate not to challenge the votes. House Republican Conference Chair Liz Cheney did the same in the House, saying it would sow doubts about the U.S. election system. Vice President Mike Pence, however, said he welcomes the efforts. In a statement over the weekend, he said he wants to see evidence of election irregularities and voter fraud be presented before Congress during that session.
President Donald Trump says he'll join the D.C. rally in March on January 6th. That's when the joint session of Congress convenes to count the Electoral College results. For weeks, Trump has been urging his supporters to attend the event, tweeting on Sunday, "I will be there, historic day." He wrote the comments as part of a retweet sharing a video advertising the event. A number of organizations are sponsoring the march, including Stop the Steal and Women for America First. The District of Columbia Police Department said a number of downtown streets will close in light of the rallies and events. The right-wing group Proud Boys also announced they would attend the rallies. Their leader hinted on Parler that the group might imitate Antifa and wear all-black clothing. Facebook shut down a fundraising page for Republican Senators Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue days before their runoff elections. A Facebook alert said the page was disabled for violating acceptable business practices. The National Republican Senatorial Committee criticized Facebook, pointing out that it took place 4 days before an election. A Facebook spokesperson said it was a mistake caused by an automated error and that the account had been restored. The January 5th runoff elections could determine which party controls the Senate. Republicans currently hold a 50 to 48 edge. The last two critical seats are up for grabs. All eyes are locked on Georgia as people anticipate the Senate runoff results. After the mounting concerns about security during the presidential race, some Georgians are committing a majority of their time to monitoring the ballot processing. NTD's Melina Wisecup reports.
Just 1 day to go until the ballot counting for the Senate runoff is set to wrap up. Some counties have been processing absentee ballots for the past couple of weeks. Tiffany Savage, a poll monitor, has been observing Fulton County's signature verification since the first day. Here's what she found.
The distance between us was such to where if two of the workers were speaking, you couldn't hear even what they were speaking about. And we should be able to see and hear what is going on. And there was no way that was happening.
These videos show the barriers where poll monitors had to stand, and Savage says the workers were facing them so they couldn't even make out the process for handling the ballots.
Then they had the ballot cage where they ultimately had to start bringing in ballots because the system that they had used or that they were wanting to use for the signature verification, the electronic, it wasn't working. They couldn't get it to work. So they had to bring the actual ballots in. It was behind a cage.
Savage says she's concerned that the Fulton County director is still able to oversee the Senate runoffs when he's part of an open investigation into the State Farm Arena incident, where ballots were being counted on election night after everyone was told to leave.
You have whistleblowers, you have GOP poll managers that have been in those positions for 20, 30 years, and they're fired. But he is not on a leave of absence. He is free to continue his job. That doesn't make any sense to me at all. It's infuriating how you have these who are just doing their constitutional duty. It's heartbreaking that there has been nothing done. That there has been nothing done, and the people's lives are being affected.
Savage says she feels deeply honored to be able to stand up and fight, and that this experience has motivated her to make some changes by running for the U.S. Senate in 2022.
And it's time to revive the patriots and get more patriots in those seats, and those who love our Constitution, want to uphold it, and will do anything to make sure that what this country was founded on is safeguarded.
Savage's photos and videos got the attention of President Trump's legal team, so she submitted her affidavit and footage for them to use as part of their collection of evidence. Reporting by Melina Wisecup, NTD News.
Team Biden is planning a virtual parade across America to replace the classic inaugural parade. Organizers say the January 20th event keeps in line with crowd limits and social distancing measures. According to event plans, the presidential swearing-in ceremony will start at the west front of the U.S. Capitol, followed by a socially distant pass review, a military tradition where the new commander-in-chief inspects the readiness of the troops. Representatives from each branch of the military are set to escort the new president to the White House, as per tradition. But organizers say that'll be shortened and socially distanced too. Only members of Congress and their guests will be allowed to attend the swearing-in. The Pentagon announces that the single U.S. Navy aircraft carrier in the Middle East will remain on duty in the region after threats from Iran. Acting Defense Secretary Christopher Miller was planning to send the USS Nimitz home last week, but changed his mind after a threat from Iranian leaders against President Trump and other U.S. officials. Officials also believe Iran is behind an attack last month on the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad. The United States has maintained a near-continuous aircraft carrier presence in the Persian Gulf region since May. The United States also sent additional land-based attack planes and re-established a troop presence in Saudi Arabia. Before the announcement, the Nimitz was due to return before the end of 2020. And coming up, some of Moderna's vaccine doses could be cut in half. That's to speed up their distribution to more people. The suggestion comes amid criticism of a slow vaccine rollout in the U.S. And if fitness is a hot topic as we enter the new year, but the pandemic is affecting how we stay fit. Experts say exercise trends for 2021 will be a hybrid. Find out more when we return.
When you look at TV networks in America, a soundbite and fight-it-out culture prevails on news and commentary programs. As a Canadian, I'm fascinated with America, and I wanted to offer American thought leaders an opportunity to share discourse was the key to free thought. As the host of American Thought Leaders, every week I interview some of the most intriguing minds on the most pressing issues of our time.
Decision, U.S. prosecutors indicted Assange on 17 espionage charges and 1 charge of computer misuse. That's over WikiLeaks' publication of classified military and diplomatic documents a decade ago, which exposed U.S. military wrongdoing in Iraq and Afghanistan. The charges carry a maximum sentence of 175 years. His lawyers argue he was acting as a journalist and is entitled to First Amendment protections of freedom of speech. A district judge said Assange suffered from clinical depression that would be exacerbated by the isolation he would likely face in U.S. prison, adding he would likely commit suicide if sent there. The U.S. is considering giving out half doses of Moderna's virus vaccine to get more people inoculated sooner. That's according to a top official handling the Trump administration's federal vaccine program.
We have ambitious objectives, and if we don't meet them, we take accountability and we'll work to find solutions rather than describe the problem.
The head of Operation Warp Speed said Sunday officials were in talks with Moderna and the FDA about the idea. The Moderna vaccine regimen involves an initial inoculation followed by a booster shot 28 days later. According to Slawi, around 17.5 million doses of Pfizer and Moderna's 2-dose vaccines have been distributed in the United States. But data from the CDC shows just 4.2 million doses have been administered as of January 2nd. Slawi said Sunday that in the past 72 hours, another 1.5 million people have received shots. Trump administration officials had said they expected 20 million people to be vaccinated by the end of the year. Fitness experts say the top workout trends for 2021 will be a hybrid of outdoor, home exercise, and creative routines like paddleboard yoga as people get creative amid the pandemic with ways to stay in shape.
The pandemic has changed much of our lives, including the way we stay fit. Celebrity fitness expert Jillian Michaels says the biggest trend for 2021 is in-home sports equipment like the Peloton stationary bike. The former host of the reality show, The Biggest Loser, says most people can't afford such high-end gear, but they can still get a great workout from an app or online. Michaels created the fitness app in 2017 as a one-stop shop for workouts, healthy recipes, and even mental health. The celebrity fitness expert says workouts shouldn't add to an already highly anxious situation.
So it has to be reframed into something you see as like self-care, self-love, nurturing yourself. Give it perspective. What is your why?
One exercise class that has seen a surge in demand is Yoga Aqua, yoga on a paddleboard. Yoga Aqua founder Sarah Tiefenthaler was among the first to start the practice of doing downward dog on paddleboards a decade ago.
Sadly, a lot of fitness, related businesses have had to close or slow down, but we feel very blessed that we've been able to thrive in this situation because we have a safe setting for people to get outside and be fit.
Tiefenthaler says on average, about 10% of students fall in the water. But that's part of the fun and shouldn't stop people from wanting to learn a new way to stay in shape.
A professional surfer is being hailed as a hero after his rescue of a drowning woman in Hawaii was caught on camera. On New Year's Eve on the north shore of Oahu, Mikey Wright saw a struggling woman being swept out to sea. The 24-year-old professional surfer quickly sprung into action, battling a 15-foot swell to get to the woman in distress. Lifeguards were busy on another part of the beach making a rescue of their own. Mikey Wright says the real heroes are lifeguards who do this every day. The Australian says lifeguards have helped his brother and even helped him before, so he was glad to pitch in. Recovery efforts are underway across 9 states to restore longleaf pine forests. The tree's complex ecosystems support plants and threatened animal species.
These armor-plated trees need regular fires to clear out smaller, faster-growing species that block the sun from its seedlings.
So we basically turned it into a pure longleaf stand, which is something that you would have seen historically if you had come here. This would have been a pure longleaf stand.
These pines were once the heart of one of North America's most extensive ecosystems, but logging, clear-cutting for farms and development, and fire suppression slashed longleaf stands from 90 million acres to only 3 million by the 1990s. Scientists estimate that longleaf savannas once covered up to 140,000 square miles, an area bigger than Germany. By the 1990s, less than 3% remained in scattered patches. Most are in areas too wet or too dry to farm.
We have a joint goal of restoring up to 8 million acres of longleaf acreage across the Southeast by 2025.
Longleaf pines establish deep roots years before shooting up in height, so they're able to survive harsh environmental forces. As the forests disappear, animal and plant species that depend on them become threatened or endangered. Since 2010, 1.3 million acres have been added, but there's still much work to be done.
The pandemic has paused much of life on Earth this year, but 2020 didn't hold space travel to the same limitations. It's been a busy year for exploration on the final frontier, with many missions ago. Let's take a look at some of them.
In January, the final images taken by NASA's Cassini spacecraft showed scientists never-before-seen views of Saturn's swirling auroras. Cassini captured the images as it performed a daring orbit, passing between Saturn and its rings. While scientists said Europe's planet-gazing Cheops space telescope had begun science operations after successfully completing its in-orbit testing phase. The Characterizing Exoplanets satellite began a 3-year mission to study planets in other solar systems.
We don't want to discover more planets with Cheops. Instead, we want to learn more about the planets that we discovered in the past.
NASA's Hubble Space Telescope celebrated its 30th anniversary on April 24th, releasing a stunning new image of 2 distant nebulae. A full decade in the making, Hubble first rocketed into orbit aboard Space Shuttle Discovery on April 24, 1990. On Earth, people around the world looked to the skies to witness a partial solar eclipse in June. In Dubai, people could see over 85% of the sun covered by the moon. Back in space, a European and NASA spacecraft snapped the closest picture ever taken of the sun, revealing countless tiny campfires flaring across its surface. In July, scientists released the first images taken by Solar Orbiter, a sun-observing satellite. A United Arab Emirates spacecraft rocketed into blue skies for a 7-month journey to Mars. The liftoff of the Mars orbiter named Amal, or Hope, sparked a rush to fly to Earth's neighbor.
Sends a very strong message to the Arab youth that if the UAE is able to reach Mars in less than 50 years, then you can do much more.
NASA's Perseverance is the biggest, most sophisticated Mars rover ever built. The car-sized vehicle, complete with cameras, microphones, drills, and lasers, blasted off for the Red Planet on July 30th. It's part of an ambitious, long-range project to bring the first Martian rock samples back to Earth. The samples will be analyzed for evidence of ancient life. In August, NASA said it had discovered salty water beneath the surface of a dwarf planet. The space agency's Dawn spacecraft gathered the up-close views of Planet Ceres before ending its mission in October 2018. Astronomers found a potential sign of life high in the atmosphere of Venus in September. 2 telescopes in Hawaii and Chile spotted the chemical signature of phosphine gas in the planet's thick clouds. The noxious gas exists on Earth and is associated with life.
It's a hint of the possibility of biology in the clouds of Venus.
A network of salty ponds may be gurgling beneath Mars's south pole alongside a large underground lake. The discovery raises the prospect of small marine Martian life forms. In October, Roger Penrose of Britain, Reinhard Genzel of Germany, and Andrea Ghez of the United States won the Nobel Prize in Physics for establishing the reality of black holes. They're still not completely understood, but are deeply connected to the creation of galaxies.
That's all for now. Catch us again tonight at 6:30 Eastern. I'm Kevin Hogan.